Hey guys, this is test 32 game 3. This is the compositions game. It is an ordering game. We know this because the songs are performed consecutively, one at a time. Therefore, there must be an order in which they are performed. Now, I've laid out a lot of rules here, but don't worry, I'm going to explain all of those. They have the 8 slots 1 through 8, the 8 songs, F, H, L, O, P, R, S, T. We have the rules on the left and on the diagram itself. They tell us that we have either TF or RT occurring consecutively, either one of those things, and of course, perhaps both. They tell us there are at least two things between R and F, so I've laid out F/R, then question mark, R/F. The loose ordering here with the dashes tells us that there are at least two things between F and R, perhaps there are even more things between them. Next, they tell us that O is either on 1 or on 5, that either L or H is on 8, and that P is before S. Finally, we have OS and SO not touching due to the last rule. Now, you might have been primed by the previous rule to lay out O/S space question mark space S/O with dashes, but I believe it is more concise to simply list them as not touching. Now, one small inference I've made here is that because P is before S cannot be on 1, and P cannot be on 7. Of course, if P was on 7, we would have to have S on 8, but we already have either L or H there, so that's impossible. So all of this right here is our initial setup for the game. Not too much work to do up front, more of the work will be done over the game itself. Now, question number 12 is a typical orientation question. You just want to take one rule at a time and apply that rule to all 5 choices, looking for violations. Now, we know that O and S can never touch, so you might want to scan through the choices looking for that, and we find that in choice D, O and S are touching with SO, unacceptable, so D is eliminated. We know that P is always before S, so you could scan through the choices looking for that, but all 5 of them do have P before S, so that's not going to help. We could look for O on 1 or 5, and we find choice C violating that, having O on 7 instead, which is unacceptable. You could also look for at least 2 things between R and F. We find that choice E is violating this, having only one thing, P between them, so E is gone. Down to A and B now, you could use the rule that either we have to have TF or RT occurring consecutively, and B violates this, having T and F having T not touching either O or P, so A is gone, B is gone, leaving A as your answer for number 12. Next, number 13, where can't P go? Well, we know that P can never be on 7 due to our initial inference, so P on 7 is our answer, and E is the result for number 13. Next, number 14, if we had T on 5 and F on 6. So I'm going to put T on 5 and F on 6. Of course, this means O is not on 5, so O will have to be on 1 in this case. We know that R and F have to have at least 2 things between them, so for that reason, R will have to go on either 2 or 3, although we don't know particularly where R will end up going. Now, we have to consider that we have to still have P before S occurring in this, and S cannot be on 2 since P is on 1. Since O is on 1. Now, if we put S on 3, we'd have to have P on 2, and then R would not be able to be on either 2 or 3, so for that reason, S cannot go on 3 either. S will have to go on either 4 or on 7, giving us the answer to this question for S, 4th or 7th, choice A, due to the P before S relationship. Next, number 15, if O was immediately after T. So this means that O will have to be on 5 and T will have to be on 4, because if O was on 1, we wouldn't be able to have O immediately after anything. Now, TF is not going to happen due to the fact that O is on 5 right after T, so for that reason, we're going to have the RT box right here. So R is going to be on 3, which forces F to be on either 6 or 7 due to the rule regarding the spacing of F and R. So they ask us where must F go? F must go on 6 or 7, so choice E is our answer to number 15. Next, number 16, if S is on 4. So right away, if S is on 4, we know O can't be on 5 because S and O can never touch. Therefore, O will have to be on 1. Any choice not listing O first can automatically be eliminated, getting rid of A, B, and E, since we know that O does have to be on 1. Now we have either OPR or we have OPT. Now OPT is not going to work because if you place it in there, how are we going to satisfy either TF or RT? It simply isn't possible. So for that reason, OPT is impossible, D is eliminated, leaving C as our answer for number 16. I'll just put down OPR to show you what happens. We could still have TF occurring on perhaps 5, 6, or 6, 7. Either way, not really a problem. So C does work and is our answer for number 16. Next, number 17, if P was on 3 and S was on 6, of course this makes O not on 5. O will have to be on 1 due to the fact that O and S can never touch. So the only potential place for the TF or RT thing to occur would be on slots 4 and 5. So it's either going to be T4F5 or it's going to be R4T5 in order to have them consecutively. Now they're asking us, what must the fifth composition be? It will have to be either F or T. So for that reason, choice C is our answer to number 17. Finally, number 18, if exactly two things were between F and O, with F occurring before O. So of course, O is not going to be on 1, because then how could we have F before it? O is going to be on 5, and we will have to have F on 2 as a result. Now they're asking us where must R go. So because at least two things must go between R and F, R will have to go on either 6 or on 7. Now we don't know exactly which of those two it will be. At first glance, it seems like either of those might be good. So I'm going to draw out both and we'll troubleshoot to figure out which of those things actually is not possible. So I'm laying out the two different possibilities here. The top one has R on 6, the bottom has R on 7, and of course the other things all hold constant: F on 2, O on 5, L/H on 8. Now in the top diagram, we could have RT or TF potentially. Either of those looks fine. So I'm going to start with the bottom diagram. Since RT is never happening, we know that TF will have to happen. So if we have TF on 1, 2, R on 7, L/H on 8, we have a few different things remaining. We have P before S, as well as H/L occurring in the remaining slots. Now, of course, we cannot have S on either 4 or 6 because O and S can never touch. S would have to be on 3, which of course poses a major problem because we're not going to be able to fit P before S when that happens. S on 4 or 6 just wouldn't work due to that rule. So the bottom diagram ends up being invalid. We're able to cross off R on 7, and of course R was never going to be on any slot other than 6 either because R can only be on either 6 or 7. So first, third, and fourth are automatically eliminated. And for now, we could easily put perhaps, in the top diagram just to prove that it works, we could put S on 7, we could have the TF box occurring, and then we have P with H/L occurring interchangeable on 3 and 4. We could either have P on 3, H/L on 4, or we could have H/L on 3 and P on 4. Either way, everything works. We could have T on 1, F on 2, O on 5, R on 6, S on 7, and then L/H on 8. So R on 6 does in fact work, even if you didn't get it by elimination for number 18.